In the busy heart of Abuja, where tall buildings touched the sky and big cars rolled like kings on the road, there stood a golden-colored restaurant. Its name was the Golden Plate. Rich people came here every day. They wore fine clothes, shiny shoes, and sweet perfumes. Inside, the chairs were soft like clouds, the tables shined like glass, and the food was like something cooked in heaven. But in every great house, there are corners that stay dark. The owner of the restaurant was a man called Mr. William, but most people called him Sir Will. He was very rich. Rich like rain in the rainy season, always flowing, never dry. His black SUV looked new every day. His suits were clean like fresh laundry, and his shoes shined so bright they could show your reflection. When he walked into his restaurant each morning, all the workers stood and greeted him. "Good morning, sir." He would nod his head slowly and say, "Carry on." Sir Will didn't talk too much. He watched things like a lion watching from the tall grass, quiet but sharp. He had over 50 workers. Some cooked in the kitchen, some served food to guests, some washed plates, and some cleaned the floors, toilets, and walls. Among these quiet workers was a young woman named Amina. Amina was one of the cleaners. She wore the brown and gold uniform of the cleaning department. She didn't speak much. She came early before the sun rose and left late when the moon was already watching. No one paid her much attention. She moved with her broom and mop like a shadow, silent and almost unseen. But Amina had a story hidden in her tired eyes and worn-out shoes. She came from a poor village far away. Her mother was sick. Her younger brother was still in school. Amina was the only one who had a job. Every naira she earned was sent home. She barely had enough to eat. Sometimes after work, she would go to the back of the kitchen and whisper to the cooks, "Please, any leftover food?" The cooks were kind. They gave her what they could. Some rice, maybe some soup, or a small piece of meat. Amina never complained. She always said thank you, even if the plate was nearly empty. One quiet night, something strange happened. The restaurant had closed. The lights were low. The last customer had gone. Most of the staff had packed their bags and left. Mr. William was in his office upstairs looking at numbers on his laptop. He was tired. His neck hurt. He loosened his tie, stood up, and walked toward the stairs. It had been a long day. Outside, his black SUV was waiting for him. But near his car, he saw something that made him stop. A young woman stood there. Not too close, not too far. Just standing, holding something in her hand. Mr. Williams squinted. "Who is that?" He whispered to himself. He took a step forward, then another. The woman was in uniform, brown and gold. A cleaner. She stood still, like a tree during harmattan. Her eyes were looking down, her back straight. He walked up to her slowly. "You work in cleaning, right?" he asked. "Yes, sir," she replied softly, not lifting her head. "What are you doing here?" "I was waiting." "Just to collect some leftover food," she said. Mr. William looked at her.
Okay.
She was holding a small container in her hands, like it was a treasure. Her shoes were old. Her uniform was clean but faded. She looked tired in the bones, not just the body. He didn't speak for a few seconds. The night air felt heavy. The street outside was quiet, with only the sound of crickets and a distant dog barking. "Why didn't you go home earlier?" he asked. "I was hungry, sir. I waited for the kitchen to close so I could ask for what was left." Mr. Williams stood there, frozen. This was his restaurant, his kingdom. He had everything: money, cars, suits, food. Yet here was one of his workers begging for scraps. "Where do you live?" he asked. "Not far, sir. I walk about 30 minutes away." He wanted to ask more questions, but he could see her discomfort. She looked like a candle almost burned. "Out? You can go now. Be safe," he finally said. "Thank you, sir," Amina replied, and walked off slowly, holding her small container close to her chest. But Mr. William didn't enter his car. He stood by the door and watched her walk in too. The night something inside him moved. A voice whispered in his ear, "Follow her." So he did. He entered his car, turned off the headlights, and slowly followed Amina from a distance. She didn't know. She walked down narrow streets, past closed shops, past children sleeping on benches. Her steps were slow. She looked tired. But used to the tiredness, finally she stopped at a small, broken gate. The house behind it was small and weak, made of old cement and rusted zinc. She entered, and through the open window Mr. Williams saw her give the food to an old woman lying on a mat, her mother. Then she broke the little bread left into 2 pieces and gave one to her little brother. She didn't eat. She just smiled and sat beside them, her hands rubbing her mother's back gently. Mr. Williams sat in his car, frozen. His chest felt heavy. His eyes began to water. He came as a boss, but what he saw made him feel human again. They say in Africa, when the rain touches the dry ground, even the silent soil sings. That night, something also touched Mr. William, not rain, but truth. And his heart, once dry like the desert, began to speak. He sat quietly inside his black SUV, watching the small poorhouse where Amina had just entered. Through the window, he had seen it all. A sick mother lying on a mat, a small boy in school uniform, and Amina hungry, tired, yet smiling, breaking her food into pieces for others. She had not taken a single bite. Mr. Williams' hands were on the steering wheel, but he could not drive. His mind was full. The woman he had always passed without notice had just taught him the meaning of sacrifice. She was richer in heart than many who dined in his golden restaurant. The next morning came quickly. The sky was still soft blue when Amina walked back to work, just like always. Her uniform was clean, but her eyes were sleepy. She had not eaten much, had stayed awake most of the night caring for her mother, rubbing her back, whispering prayers as she entered the back of the restaurant. She greeted the kitchen staff quietly. "Good morning," she said. But before she could grab her mop, someone called her name, Amina. She turned. It was the manager. "Sir Will wants to see you." In his office, her heart skipped. Had she done something wrong? Did someone complain? Slowly, she wiped her hands on her uniform and walked upstairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. Inside the office, Mr. Williams sat behind his big wooden desk. His face was calm, his suit, like always, was neat. But something about him looked different. His eyes were soft, not cold like before. He pointed to the chair. Amina sat down carefully, her eyes low. "I followed you last night," he said. Her eyes widened. "I saw your home, your mother, your brother, the food you gave them." She covered her face with her hands in shame. "I'm sorry, sir. I just needed to help my family. Didn't mean to beg for food. I was." Mr. William raised his hand gently. "No, don't say sorry. I should be the one to say sorry." She looked up, confused. "All these years I've owned this restaurant, but I never truly saw the people who worked for me. I saw uniforms, I saw names on a list, but I never saw their lives." The office was quiet. Only the soft hum of the air conditioner filled the space. Mr. William opened a drawer, brought out an envelope. "This is for you," he said. Amina took it with shaky hands. Inside, she found money, more than she had ever seen at once. "Sir, that is for your mother's medicine. And starting today, your salary will be higher. Also, every day you will take home a proper meal. Not leftovers, real food." Amina's lips trembled. Her eyes filled with tears, but she held them back. She could not believe this was happening. "There's one more thing," Mr. William added. "Your brother. I want to pay for his school fees until he finishes." Amina broke down. She covered her face and cried, not from pain, but from the sudden flood of kindness. For years, she had carried heavy stones on her back, walking through life quietly, hoping someone would notice. And now, someone had. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Don't say anything. Just keep being who you are." "You have." Taught me more than any business school ever did." From that day, everything changed. Mr. Williams started walking around the restaurant more. He no longer stayed hidden in his office. He spoke with the staff, asked about their lives, and listened. He built a small staff room where they could rest. He gave food packages to those with families. He started a fund for emergency help. And Amina, she grew stronger, happier. Her mother's health improved. Her brother studied harder. She walked with her head a little higher. She still cleaned the floors, but now people saw her. Not just her broom or uniform, but her, the woman with strength and a golden heart. The customers never knew the full story. They still came in with their soft clothes and heavy wallets. They still ate food on glass plates and drank cold juice. But somewhere in the back, a quiet woman walked proudly, and a rich man smiled. Knowing that kindness had built something money never could. One Sunday evening, a new worker asked an old staff member, "Why does Sir Will always greet the cleaners?" First, the old staff member smiled and said, "Ah, my friend. That is because one night he saw something that opened his eyes. And since then, his heart has never been the same." The young worker nodded. He did not know the full tale, but he felt it in the air. Kindness now lived in the walls of the Golden Plate and in that African town where rich and poor lived side by side. One man's quiet choice to follow a girl with leftover food became the story that changed everything.